You're tuned into Visions, a business and community affairs program designed to encourage and promote entrepreneurship in Central Alabama.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of Vision. Cedric Varner, glad to get a chance to see you again, and we're glad for our guest today, Montgomery County District Attorney Daryl Bailey. Attorney Bailey, thanks for being with us again on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. You know, it's been a while since we've had a chance to talk, and so we got a lot to catch up on, a little bit of time. I've been noticing as I've watched the news and see different events happening in the community that you are on the scene when a violent crime issue occurs, and is that part of your philosophy?
It is. I think it's important for a couple of different reasons. One, I think it's important for the community to see their district attorney out on these type of scenes. It reassures them that we're on top of it, that we're doing what we're supposed to, and that we care. It's important for the family members of the deceased for me to make contact with them and just talk with them for a brief amount of time and let them know how sorry I am for their loss, and to make that contact, because we will be partnering with them for a long journey through the criminal justice system. So I think it's important to make that initial contact. I think it's also important from a prosecutorial standpoint because it gives me a look at the scene from the time that it happens. I get to see everything as it is on that day without having to go through photographs later and try to figure out what that is or what that is. I can see it firsthand. Another reason it's important is that we're there working alongside the police department or sheriff's office or whatever law enforcement agency is investigating it, and in case they have questions about a legal issue, and we're able to give them advice and be there if help is needed. Yeah.
Well, not only have I seen you at these crime events and on these crime locations, I've seen your chief investigator.
Yeah.
Michael Thomas is out there with you also.
Chief Investigator Mike Thomas, who is with me most places.
Yeah.
We're
like today.
Yeah, like today.
like right now.
We're a good partnership. He's the one that has the duty of calling me at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when these happen. And he is an amazing investigative mind of his own, having worked at the Montgomery Police Department, being a homicide detective, and now being in the district attorney's office for well over 20 years, since the 90s. And he does a really good job. So he has a lot of knowledge that he brings to a crime scene. Yeah. And he knows this community very well. He knows a lot of the people in the community. So he's a tremendous asset out there on the scene. Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, we were talking before we came out about a newspaper story that we saw just referencing mental illness, and that can have effect on the crime statistics in a community. It can. Unfortunately, mental health is a big problem in our criminal justice system. There are a lot of addressed and mostly unaddressed mental health issues among the folks that we see coming into the criminal justice system. I know it's a big issue with children that we see that maybe skipping school or truant from school. It's one of the issues that we have found is a cause of that. And we're trying to get resources available for the children, but it's a huge issue for adults. And unfortunately, because of lack of resources, the facilities that we used to have to address those problems are no longer here. So it's a big problem. Yeah, very challenging. Now, you talked about our youth and some of the things that they need. One of the great programs that you've been doing for a few years now is the iLead program. Absolutely. And I think you do it at E.D. Nixon? I teach at E.D. Nixon, but we're actually at 5 different schools in Montgomery. My office heads up that program in a partnership with the Montgomery Police Department and also with the Attorney General's office. I'm glad that we also have prosecutors from the Attorney General's office that actually help. And they're actually leading in 2 of our schools this year. So we're very thankful for former Attorney General Luther Strange and now current Attorney General Steve Marshall for continuing that partnership with us, because I think those 2 gentlemen along with me realize that if we can keep kids out of the criminal justice system, then we're accomplishing a lot. But yes, I teach over at E.D. Nixon, love it. This is my 3rd year. We're gearing up, getting ready for a big field trip event that we're planning, and that's coming up pretty soon. We're going to have football players from Auburn University. We have a professional football player that's going to be coming and talking to the kids about how important school is and education is. We're going to take them on a riverboat ride, which will be fun, and then we're going to take them to the Montgomery Police Department training facility where they're going to get to see helicopters and cars, motorcycles, canines, and all type of things for the kids there. And we're going to feed them some pizza too, which is usually their favorite part.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, what's the effect? What do you believe that they like? Do you think that the children and our youth like the program?
Oh, I do. You know, you go around and you ask the kids, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And a lot of especially our young men want to be professional athletes. And that's one of the things that we're going to try to address through the field trip is with these athletes who are in the collegiate level and the professional level coming in, they're going to reinforce to them that, hey, that's fine. If you can make it to college on a scholarship, or you can make it, if you're very fortunate, make it to the pros, you still have to have something to fall back on.
Right.
One of the things I tell my kids day in and day out at E.D. Nixon is even Cam Newton, who is one of the best quarterbacks in the country right now, realizes the importance of education. That's one of the things he does is go back to Auburn University to continue his education. And you see that happen with a lot of the really smart professional athletes because they realize they're only an injury away from ending their career, and they need something to fall back on. But I do think that the iLead program is working. I do think we're making a difference. You know, I'm smart enough to realize we're not going to be able to reach every child, but if we can just reach one or two or more, this program is worth it. And I get feedback from parents all the time that say, hey, this is the highlight of their week when y'all come in and y'all talk to them. And they've told us about this and this and this that you've taught them. So I believe the children are listening. And, you know, if we can keep that message of get your education, stay out of trouble, watch who you hang out with, then I think they have a chance of getting through that middle school, which is tough, and then getting into high school and getting that diploma. And you know, one of my favorite topics that we cover through the iLead program is economics. We just covered that at E.D. Nixon a couple of weeks ago, and we go through talking to the kids, first of all, hey, what do you want when you grow up? You know, what kind of house do you want? And I'll show them a little shack, and then I'll show them a big, nice mansion. Oh, we want the mansion. What kind of car do you want? Do you want this little Beetle Bug, you know, that's all beat up? And I said, no, you want this Ferrari. Oh, we want the Ferrari. But then we go through and we talk about how much those things cost. You know, how much is the payments? How much is the insurance? How much is the gas for the car? How much is your electricity bill, telephone bill, all these different things. And then we talk about how much money on average you make without a high school education. And they realize very quickly that you're not going to be able to afford those things. Well, then how much money do you make with a high school education? How much money do you make with a college education, a professional degree? And they realize the things that they are wanting in life, the dreams that they're having, that they're only going to be able to afford them with something like a professional degree. Or we also promote trade school, you know, and having a trade skill, you know, because I realize academics is not for every child. But you have plumbers and welders out there right now, and there's a huge demand for both of those. That are starting out at $20, $25 an hour, which is a pretty good salary. When I started out working at the grocery store sacking groceries, and I did that for 10 years, I was making $3.35 an hour.
Understand.
So yeah, you know, $20, $25 an hour is a great salary. So we do promote that as well. But you know, the ideal is to ingrain in them the importance of education and the importance of being in school. We covered a topic last week about truancy and skipping school and how it can be so devastating to you if you just miss one day of instruction. You know, I was very slow in math. I still am. But
I understand.
I missed one class, I'm behind. And I knew that when I got into high school. I realized, hey, if I'm sick, I got to go at least to math, because if I miss one day, I'm going to be behind. So we try to teach the kids that as well.
Well, that leads us to the other subject that we want to talk about, some of the root causes of crime. We talked about truancy and being absent from school, and you've got some statistics that show high school dropouts and the inevitability of where that path will lead.
Yeah, most of the violent crime that we see, when I go and I look at each one of those cases, there is a common characteristic, and the common characteristic of the offenders in those cases is that they were high school dropouts. They did not get their high school education. And so, you know, that leads me to believe that there is a strong correlation between those who are not completing school, who are dropping out, and our crime rate, and, you know, specifically our violent crime rate. So I believe that if we can keep the kids in school, keep them behaving, get them an education, that statistics show me that they have a lot better chance for success.
That's good. Well, we've got just a little time left. One of the things I've been seeing that you do is you really stay active on your social media, and you know, let the general community know what's happening, what kind of convictions. Want to compliment you on that.
Thank you.
So you've been able to bring the trial and get convictions on many of the violent offenders in the area.
We have. Unfortunately, we have a lot pending, but we're working to address that. And violent crime is one of the things that I'm pushing really hard and trying to get a handle on. We just recently added an extra person to our violent crime team, so now we have a 4-team member professional violent crime team because we want to address and try to get a hold of the backlog that we have on our violent crimes right now. That's very important to me. Unfortunately, due to a lack of funding, we've had to take that person from something else, and you know, that's unfortunate, but we're trying to do with the resources that we have because it's very important for us to get these cases to trial as quickly as possible and to get the convictions if the person is guilty.
And as it relates to funding, so this work that, you know, you're doing is important, but can't be done without the sufficient funding that it needs in order to maintain it.
That's correct. And unfortunately, the Alabama legislature has done a really poor job of funding our criminal justice system. You know, I think if you went and you survey the people in Montgomery right now, one of the things that they will tell you is that they want these offenders who are breaking into their houses, who are doing all the shooting and killing and all that, they want them caught, they want them tried, and they want them convicted, and they want them sentenced to prison. And so that they can, you know, everybody wants to live a peaceful life.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, everybody wants to be able to go to their home,
That's right.
have peace, and not worry about all the foolishness of someone selling drugs next door, someone shooting up next door,
Right.
that type of thing. And I think if you went to the people in Montgomery, I think overwhelmingly they would tell you that's the #1 issue on their mind. But the Alabama legislature just does not seem to get that. They don't fund law enforcement, as we've seen with all the drastic cuts with Aaliyah. There's no troopers on the road like there used to be, which causes a lot of the traffic fatalities. You've seen those spike recently. But also for prosecutorial agencies. Our agency, for example, is a state agency, which means that we are supposed to be funded wholly by the state of Alabama.
Hold that point,
Sure.
because we got to go.
Absolutely.
So we'll have to pick up on this next time so you can further explain and expound on this topic about the need for funding.
Absolutely.
D.A. Beatty, thanks for coming to be with
Yeah,
us.
thank you so much for having me.
Good. That's going to do it for us on this segment of Vision. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.